So today I came up with a crazy idea to get Codex to go through my ChatGPT history. I had it generate this report. I didn't look much into it. I decided I'm just gonna do it on camera. Could be embarrassing, could be pretty cool. Now before we get super into it, I just wanna show you how it literally has everything you have ever sent ChatGPT in here. It has every single audio file or every single audio message I have ever sent to ChatGPT in here. So the pattern file, first read of the ChatGPT archive, short thesis. 2025 was not a straight pivot. Okay, so number one, you keep treating optionality like a strategy. Your hidden pattern is not that you had too many ideas, yet too many live branches made you feel safer. The year got better whenever the archive forced fewer option loops, one niche, fewer flows. Your enemy was not lack of ambition. It was the comfort of keeping every possible self alive at once. I tried very hard to keep every option I had open because I didn't know where I was going. It spread me so thin, and then once I did commit to stuff, I feel like I had more success. You were not only asking for advice, you were asking for permission to trust yourself. Would you tell me if I'm a loser, be 100% honest? Damn right you are. Oh my gosh. Okay, now let's move on. Your confidence often arrived before the proof loop, then immediate certainty that the next one would hit. Later in the year, the market corrected that pattern with quiet brutality. Lesson: conviction is not the same as evidence. You are strongest when confidence is forced through receipts. I think that's true. This was me failing at some lead generation I was doing for like small business AI automation I tried out to begin with. You build best when the audience is specific enough to embarrass you. Your best product instincts show up when the audience is concrete, socially real, and impossible to fool with generic output. Oh. I kind of like that because I was doing some stuff for my fantasy football league and I had a clear audience there who could repeatedly test my ideas, and the offer did not only need copywriting, it needed you to decide what kind of operator you were becoming. We need something to actually sell in these cold emails. Brother, I don't know what I need. I don't even have HubSpot. Like, our offer blows. The market helped you by ignoring you. The zero reply rate receipts are useful because they removed ambiguity. That was just some like cold email I was trying to do. You do not lack ideas, you lack compression. Across sales, ServiceNow content, and agents, your work starts compounding when it becomes compressible. Builder mode was both your gift and your hiding place. The same instinct that let you to ship workflows also let you avoid sharper asks. Sometimes they were also a way to delay the sentence. Here's what I sell, here's what it costs, do you want it? You can procrastinate with work that looks objectively productive. And I agree with this because as a developer, I always tend to default to building instead of actually doing the harder part, which is selling, marketing, putting yourself out there, not being scared. And that's just a lesson that anyone who begins in business has to learn. You try to make AI carry taste, it could only pressure test. The more agents you use, the more explicit your taste has to become. I agree with this too because I can immediately tell when something's written by AI. I can tell when the idea isn't flushed out enough. And those are just reps you get from working with AI for so long to know when the AI could be misguiding you. You stopped asking AI for answers and started managing work. The serious AI lesson was managerial, better delegation, not better prompts. So giving away work you actually understand to the agents to complete and automating that away, I think helps a lot. Your technical taste got sharper by deleting cleverness. Oh, the system improved when you trusted boring constraints more than clever scaffolding. You resisted the boring, unfair advantage because it felt like going backward. Oof, this one's gonna hurt. The archive keeps showing the same tension. Enterprise IT did not feel as live as the weird projects, but it had the expertise, buyer pain, credibility, and demos. The real move was not returning to the old self. It was returning with better taste. Lessons. Sometimes the thing that feels like a fallback is actually the advantage you had, not earned, the humility to use. Damn. The spark of this lesson is that I realized doing the AI automation agency stuff, competing with 18-year-olds, just made me realize that I was so excited to quit my job. I was so excited to get into AI. I was so excited to learn that the kind of advantages I had by being in enterprise IT in the ServiceNow niche, and I took it for granted. If you quit your job to go start a business, don't immediately start in a different niche, because the reasons why you were successful in the older niche can help you be successful when you do something new in the old niche, if that makes sense. And this was something I had to learn, and this was definitely one of the biggest, hardest learning lessons for me. Oh, man, I failed so much, so hard in like a bunch of new niches that I've realized I had to go back to the old niche. So I basically restarted. But that is something I wish I did from the beginning, was just stick to what I know, stay in enterprise IT. Because I didn't realize how competitive, hyper competitive it can be in these smaller niches if you're restarting with a bunch of people from the same starting point. Does that make sense? The operator shift was admitting that solo competence was becoming expensive. You were not only learning how to hire, you were learning that doing everything yourself was no longer proof of seriousness. It was becoming a tax on speed, focus, and sales. For me, I felt like I was building so much and I was avoiding the sales, marketing, all the harder part. I needed to go learn how to do that. So this is kind of when I hired someone to do the building piece for me, while I focused on learning sales, marketing, networking. Like for me, I learned like basically all the building blocks of how you do sales and how to have an online presence and stuff. And then the building got easier, and then I got rid of the developer because I could do both of them. The spirals were often unclosed loops. The mind racing nights were not random. They usually follow too many unresolved identity and business questions at once. Visibility, network access, focus, what to sell, who to become. The cure was rarely another insight. It was externalizing the loop, closing one decision. So I'd have the networking, I'd have sales, I would need to build, I was checking bugs, I was trying to get people to actually try my product, I was paying people to actually try my product. Nothing was happening, no one would try, I was getting no interest, and this pressure can create spiral loops, and it can make you feel like nothing is working, nothing is helping. You're up late at night, you wake up feeling like a failure, then you go to sleep feeling like a failure, and then go to bed a failure, wake up a failure, and that's day after day after week after week after a month, and it keeps going. And people don't realize the amount of weight this feels on you and how much you can burn out and like spiral out. So taking care of yourself, realizing when these kind of patterns are starting to creep up on you can help a lot. Optimization linked into emotional numbness. Being hard to break is useful, being hard to reach is expensive. I mean, today I still kind of feel this way. I mean, you're in sales, you gotta have thick skin. Nothing's personal, it is what it is. Bali was not reset, it was a sorting machine. The useful Bali story was not lifestyle content, it was realization. Burning everything down did not create a new person from scratch. It revealed what was actually worth keeping. Sometimes you have to leave the old live to find out which parts were not actually the problem. Yeah, I think this kind of goes back to the ServiceNow reset, where I was so excited to burn literally my whole life to the ground to restart. For me, quitting felt like a complete restart of my life. And then I realized a lot of stuff from the old part of life I could keep. And then at that point, I could decide what I wanted to keep or not. And that's why I went back to ServiceNow. Do what you're good at. When I was doing the small business automation, the ChatGPT kept yelling at me to go into a niche. I needed a niche down. So I had done some e-commerce work for a couple people. So I decided to go into e-commerce. And my idea for getting e-commerce clients, etc., was to scrape the entire Shopify store, get all the comments, and then run AI through every single comment on every single app in the App Store to find which ones were having issues and with what, and then to actually go get the LinkedIn of whoever made the app. So then I would reach out to that person and then be like, hey, I saw you're having this problem, I can fix it for you. And this was actually a really good idea. I actually got a couple people like pretty interested before I just kind of realized this wasn't me. When I started talking to people about the problems and like how I could fix it for them, they were like, because of this, this, and this, it won't work. And I realized I just didn't understand like Shopify, e-commerce, enough to even be competitive. The most alive work and the most sellable work were not the same work. Baka Boys had energy, ServiceNow had credibility. The archive gets interesting because you were not choosing between good and bad. You were choosing which self belonged on which surface. Not every true part of you belongs on every sales surface. Boring businesses make a lot of money. And stuff doesn't have to be that interesting for you to make money. All right, to wrap it all up, I think I relied on ChatGPT a little too much than I should have in the year 2025. I understand why I did it, because I basically had no idea what I was doing. And it felt like a good resource, but I like the agents, the more specified, where you can automate workflows and where I have more control over the execution, the ideas, the taste. And I think this is where I like AI better, not just in the chat where it can get confused and not remember everything. And I probably spent way too much time in ChatGPT than I should have. But some interesting lessons, some good things to think about. You know, it was a hard year, and growth is suffering, you know. Had a lot of family issues. I underestimated the difficulty of what I was getting into. I don't think anyone can relate or even understand unless you've done something similar. Life's hard, it is what it is.